Next is Phil Libin, the CEO of Evernote, who has been here many times, and we really like to have those visionaries coming back every year. We like that they share the latest with us. So we have a number of usual suspects this afternoon, visionaries from Silicon Valley. So Phil Libin of Evernote. How are you, Phil?
Good to see you.
Looks like you have a few fans here.
Wow.
How many use Evernote? Everybody. Okay. I should ask who doesn't.
Well, it's always disturbing to see that many hands, because I prefer it when only like 50% go up, because then that's our growth opportunities, the rest of the people. So.
Yeah, you won't come anymore because you don't need to.
I need more people who don't use Evernote here, yeah.
Phil, there is a major change in the way we work. So we used to be, when I had hair, we used to use open apps such as Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. Then more and more, it's been switching to like Google Docs and like the cloud. You just released a number of products. How do you see us like spending so much time? Beginning of Evernote was more like on individual users, and now you're moving into the workspace.
I'm just trying to picture you with hair. What was your hair like when you had it?
Kind of the same. Don't worry about it.
I used to have a big afro when I was younger.
I'll show you a few pictures.
I look forward to seeing it. Yeah, I think work has really become unpleasant for many, many people. And I think part of the problem is the tools we were using are just based on old ideas, on ideas that were necessary like 30 years ago, but are unnecessary now. And I think a lot of companies, just in the past year or two, are saying, hey, we can make being at work much more human, much more productive. And I really think we're like the big revolution that's coming is a revolution in the idea of what productivity is. That's going to impact 1 billion people within just a few short years.
1 billion people.
I think so. I think like we've all been working using archaic ideas, like this concept of cognitive skeuomorphism. Right? So the idea is, remember a couple of years ago when iOS 7 came out, there was this big movement away from what was known as skeuomorphic design. Skeuomorphic design was when you have something on a computer that looks like a real-world object. So you had like in the early versions of iPhone, everything looked like a physical object. There was all this like fake leather and wood grain, and everything was like a nice, rendered glass bubble. And then a couple of years ago, the industry really moved away from it, saying, we don't really need these like physical, fake-looking things in our computers. And that was a good move. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the visual ideas. There's a much deeper type of skeuomorphism, which is the cognitive one. The metaphors that we're using are based on physical objects that don't apply anymore. So like the idea of files, for example. A file is a stupid thing. Like you don't need files anymore. You don't need...
And you don't need to name a document.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need really documents. You don't need apps. You don't need inboxes. You don't need desktops. You definitely don't need slides. Like a slide as a unit of presentation is a horrible idea. And these are all things that people haven't questioned for like 30 years. But now people started to question them and seeing that there's a much more mindful, a much more elegant way to work without these concepts.
So no more documents, no more files, no more slides, no more Excel spreadsheets?
Yeah.
We don't need them.
I think you need... This is overstatement.
You're announcing the death
as always.
of the Office apps as we know them.
The death of Office apps is only slightly exaggerated. We still need them for certain things. I think we just need a lot less of it. Like, look, Excel is a great app. Like I use Excel.
Let's forget Excel. Like taking notes and making presentations.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well, like presentations are a classic example. Like PowerPoint is a lot of what's wrong with the world today. Well, and it's because PowerPoint like introduced this idea that everything is about pitching, and it isn't. Like PowerPoint turns every meeting into a pitch, where instead of trying to like have the purpose of the meeting be to come up with better information, to improve the quality of information decision making, PowerPoint is structured in a way to try to just simplify everything, dumb it down, so that you can convince people. So the PowerPoint cognitive style is one person with a bunch of bullet points trying to just sort of beat everyone else in the room into saying, fine, I'm so bored, I agree with whatever you're saying. And like that works okay maybe 1% of the time, especially if it's done really well, like at a big keynote presentation. But most meetings shouldn't be pitches. Most meetings should be about a discussion. Right, or at least just a discussion. And PowerPoint is like anti-discussion. It kills discussion.
Yeah, it's here's what I think.
Right, and it's also not friendly to the presenter because like if you already have all this work, now you have to make slides. So I have to take the work that I already have, I have to dumb it down, I have to make slides, and then I have to email them around, and I lose different versions. And like it's just disrespectful to the presenter, it's disrespectful to the audience, and it's a poor cognitive style because it's about convincing people.
So let me sum up. Word, PowerPoint suck, and they're near dead. And
Word is I think Word is good if you're writing something that you're going to print out, which is just, 10 years ago. Well, back when you had hair and I had bigger hair, I would write things like, say, in college.
I don't know why it started like this. I'm so sorry. Now it's going to be.
I know. I just can't.
Okay, let's talk about hair.
About like when I was in college, right? I would use Microsoft Word to write stuff, and probably 80% of what I would write would get printed out, right? Because like I would write,
we would
and I would print
yeah.
it, and I would hand the paper in to the professor. And so Word was great when you were printing out 80% of the stuff, and so you had to worry about margins and stuff like that. But it's still for that. But what percentage of stuff that you write gets printed out now? It's like less than 1/10 of 1%. So when you're writing in Word, it's using its UI to show you things related to paper and how things would look on paper. Instead, like when you're writing in Evernote, we're showing you things that are intended to improve the quality of your writing. We show you things like in context, like related information.
Yes, tell me what you do about it. So we know Evernote, everybody does here. So how do you make a new product that addresses those concerns?
Well, the new idea is this idea of Evernote as a workspace. So we don't need a separate tool for communication. Like the telephone is a bad metaphor. We don't need something else for communicating. Email is a bad metaphor. We don't need something else for sending things around. Communicating is part of writing. So you don't need like one thing to write and one thing to research and one thing to communicate. As you write, you ought to be doing the research at the same time and communicating at the same time. So we have Work Chat, which we just released a couple of weeks ago. Work Chat. Which we thought a lot about what we should call it, and we decided, like, let's call it Work Chat because it's what it says in the tin. Like, it's the way to talk about what you're working on. So as you're working, you can write there, right? As part of your writing, as part of your reading, you can communicate with the people that you need to collaborate with. You can send notes, notebooks, whatever you want. And at the same time, we have context. So as you're working, we're actually showing you what is the most important information that can help you improve the quality of what you're working on.
So let's say I'm preparing this Q&A on Evernote. As I type my notes, I will get context around it?
Yeah.
So what is it like?
So as you type, if you're preparing a Q&A with me in Evernote right now, if you were typing it, what you would see is, well, first you would see your previous notes from our previous interviews. That would just come up automatically. So you could see like what we talked
Everything
about in the
I
past.
wrote about Evernote and Libin will show up.
Everything if you wanted, but really the goal isn't to show you everything. It'll show you the most important things.
From what I wrote.
From what you wrote. Also from what any of your colleagues wrote. And also, and this is what's new right now, it would actually show you the most recent news articles about what we're going to be talking about. So you would see like articles about the deals that we've done, the announcements we've made, right there. And you can click on any of those articles, you can see it in the app, you can cite, you can have this perfect like citation right into your notes. So as you just start writing, going to be interviewing Phil Libin from Evernote on stage, like all of the rest of the information that exists in the world that's relevant to that is going to start coming to you. And that's really powerful.
How do you do that?
Engineering. Also design, a bunch of design.
No, but you have some artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah, augmented. I don't like the term artificial.
Yeah, we have engineers. Thanks, Phil. No, really, like I appreciate that.
I think artificial intelligence is a bad term. I think it's I prefer augmented intelligence because
augmented intelligence.
Yeah, because it's not like, well, first of all, there's nothing artificial about it. It's like I don't really like. It's just intelligent, but I think artificial intelligence is often positioned as you're going to make a computer, you're going to make a machine that's meant to be as smart as a person, and that's not really the goal.
Will not work.
Augmented intelligence is to make the person smarter. So yeah, so we have an AI team, an augmented intelligence team, and they're doing a lot of work to try to figure out how to give you superpowers. You know, there's a lot of products and companies working on like making it smarter. So there's like, you know, Siri, there's Google Now, there's a bunch of stuff like this, right? And we spent a lot of time thinking about what should this feel like? Like, what should being smarter feel like to the user? And I think there's kind of 3 models. I think you basically have like 3 choices. And you can kind of see the evolution of the industry in these choices. Like your first choice is, it should feel like you're a child, and you've got this parent who is kind of benevolent and does the work for you and sort of pats you on the head and tells you you're doing a good job. That's sort of like option A. Option B is, it can feel like you are an important executive, like I'm a fancy CEO, and I've got this assistant, and the assistant is working really tirelessly to like help like do stuff for me. That's kind of option B. And option C is, you're Superman. Like, it feels like you're doing everything yourself, but it's all easy for you because you have superpowers and you can just like have this infinite ability to work and to do the right thing. And so of those 3 options, like, I want to be Superman. I don't want to feel like a child. And you know, like 20 years ago when we first had Clippy, that was a good step in that direction, but it was very much like sort of patronizing to the user. I don't want to feel like I have an assistant. And a lot of the current work is sort of at that assistant level. I want to do the work myself. I just want it to come naturally to me, and I want it to be easy. I want to feel like I have superpowers. So like the AI, the purpose of the augmented intelligence is to augment my own capabilities to make me feel like I have this informational superpowers where I always have just the right information right at the tip of my tongue. And that's what we're trying to go for.
Okay, so how does it compare? Because I bet if we brought someone from Microsoft, someone from Google, who else? Salesforce, who are the players? You're putting your steps in an interesting space here. It's kind of big, right?
It is kind of big, yeah.
So Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, because there is collaboration, like Chatter is, you know, also, I'm sure Mark Benioff would argue that he's doing collaboration.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of companies, including Microsoft, are realizing that the old metaphors are broken, and that this is a huge opportunity to actually have the next giant step forward in how people relate to work and to productivity. So there's a bunch of companies that are really trying to solve this problem.
What will make Evernote different? Or is already making Evernote different?
Well, I think we really focus on the design and what this thing should feel like, and I think we have a really single-minded attention toward building this external brain. I'm really glad that in the industry there's a lot of great companies that are trying to solve this. You know, they say if you're the only one working on a problem, you're working on the wrong problem. So yeah, the competition is intense, and a lot of the products are actually quite beautiful. Not all of them. A lot of them are crap. But what we're really focused on is figuring out, like, how do you make it feel when you're working like you're working in the now? Like, how do we make a big company feel small again? And I don't think anyone else is approaching it quite this way. I think it gives us a really big advantage.
So so if I'm in a working environment, how can I optimize the use of Evernote? How do you call it, Evernote Now or
just
chat?
Well, it's just Evernote.
Evernote. Okay.
So it's the purpose of Evernote is the same that it's ever been. It's to make you smarter, and we just add these features into all of our clients. The new features are called Work Chat, which is how you communicate, and Context, which is the thing that pulls in information from news sources, from your own notes, from previous notes.
Yes, sorry.
And the idea is that this infuses every part of your work. So as you're writing, Evernote is helping you write better. As you're reading, Evernote is helping you become more aware of everything else about the subject that you're reading about.
And you're doing interesting partnerships with media companies too?
Yeah.
Probably in Europe, they'll be interesting to partner with you as well.
Yeah.
So who are those partners and how do you work with them?
Well, we launched a big partnership with Dow Jones. So we have the full content of the Wall Street Journal, which we show
Everything.
as part of Context. Right as you're working. So, for example,
You have a whole archive of Wall Street Journal?
Well, we index the archive, and then we show just the articles that are the most relevant to you. Like, we're not trying to make Evernote be the place where you just sit down and read the Wall Street Journal. We want Evernote to be the place where, as you're working, we show you the most important information. So, for example, I was writing a note for my board, I do all my board meetings in Evernote. And I was writing about the fact that we just extended our deal with Docomo in Japan for a fifth year. And as I was writing it, a story came up in Evernote about a conflict that Docomo was having with some other partners. And I didn't know about this. I hadn't seen the news, but it was extremely material to what I was writing for the board. And so since I was writing it in Evernote, I saw it, I was able to immediately cite it into the note that I was writing, and it made the quality of that material better. Like I would have written something weaker, I would have presented something weaker to my board had I been writing it in Word instead of Evernote. And that's kind of the goal, is like as you're working, have the most relevant information come to you. So in English language, the primary partnership is with Dow Jones and with several other publishers. In Japan, we just signed a really big partnership with Nikkei, and then we're looking in basically every other language to have a small number of the top news and business and financial sources.
Anything coming in France and Europe?
Absolutely. We're in talks now.
You're in talks
several
now.
publishers. Yeah.
You know what would be cool is to be able to get the top sources of information, the top influencers on, say, mindfulness.
Yeah.
So you write about mindfulness or meditation, and you have, I don't know why I quote this topic, and you have top guys of the industry showing up.
Yeah.
And I actually would like that.
And so
Who are the most trusted sources, the most influential writers, authors?
Well, I think that's kind of exactly right. And so we already do a really focused version of that in Evernote Business, where whenever you're doing anything, we show you the top experts in your own company about the subject. So if I search for anything right now in Evernote, since we use Evernote Business at our company, I see all of my coworkers who know the most about it. I think extending that from just the people that you're sitting near to everyone else in the world is a good step. We have a partnership with LinkedIn, where LinkedIn information comes into context as well. So if you just mention people or companies in the notes, you'll see their LinkedIn profiles, you can connect with them. I think the next obvious step is to really extend that into expertise discovery as well. There's really just a huge amount you can do.
And that's not the basic product, that's for corporate. Pro version or?
So context is a premium feature, so it's just part of Evernote Premium. So it's for individual as well as corporate users at the premium level. But in the future, we'll have sources that are for free users. We'll have sources that are for premium users. We'll probably have certain vertical sources that are very specialized but very high value. There'll be an extra fee. So if you need risk and compliance data because you work in an industry that needs that, like you can pay more for specifically that module. So the idea is to have a very broad set of high quality content available to as many people as possible, and then have specific vertical information, kind of industry by industry, for probably additional money. But we haven't launched that yet.
So when I'm done with my research in Evernote, I'm helped in more and more ways. And then when I need to deliver a talk, I still need to go to PowerPoint.
No, so there is no research phase and writing phase and presentation phase in Evernote. It's all the same thing. So as you start working, you just start writing, the research starts happening for you. You look at whatever you're interested in, you incorporate it in your writing, you make as many notes as you want. When you're done, you can just you can work chat the whole notebook around to people. They can make comments on it, they can see it ahead of time, and then if you're in an in-person meeting, you can hit the presentation mode, and you can present directly out of Evernote from your computer or from your phone, and it automatically makes a really beautiful presentation where you don't have to deal with slides or anything else. It'll just take your content, it'll make the presentation for you. It doesn't let you do things that would make your presentation terrible. Like, it doesn't let you put in animations. It doesn't let you have ugly fonts, because no one actually wants those things, or no one, you give people the ability to do that, and unless they're really good designers, they're just going to make really ugly presentations. So
look at the Apple keynotes. I mean, come on.
Well, exactly. Those are the types of things where you need it. But that's got to be 1% of the meetings.
Common models we do.
When I use Keynote for my own Keynote. So when we did our conference EC4 a few months ago, I used Keynote. I had a presentation, and but it was beautiful, and I had designers actually make it, and that was one person speaking in front of we had 1,500 people. That wasn't a discussion. That really was a keynote. Keynote and PowerPoint are made for that, and if you know what you're doing, you can be good at that. But that's how many times do I give a keynote in front of 1,000 people? A couple of times a year? How many times do I have a meeting with 10 people where we're trying to have a discussion? Several thousand times a year? Well, probably 1,000 times a year? Yeah, probably 3 or 4 times a day. So why use the same tools for those things when you're trying to have a discussion, as I'm using for the big keynotes. So Evernote presentation mode isn't meant for presenting to 1,000 people. It's really meant to have a discussion.
And that's on iPhone, iPad, everywhere?
Yeah, it's everywhere. The most advanced version, presentation mode 2.0, is on Mac, and it's really beautiful. The 2.0 version is coming on Windows, iPhone, Android, everywhere soon.
So is that your whole focus? Just like last question we're running out of time. Is that your whole focus now is on business?
Well, not business, but work.
Work.
So like, it is about work. You know, I launched Evernote Food on stage at LeWeb like a few years ago. And what we realized since then is like, the highest impact we can have on the world is not letting people store their recipes in Evernote. It's not about using Evernote for gardening. People do that all the time, but we don't need to talk about that. Like, people will use Evernote for their food and their gardening and their recipes. I use it like that all the time. But that isn't what's going to have the impact in the world. What's going to have impact in the world is making people smarter, having people make better decisions where it matters, which is around their life's work. So we want Evernote to be the thing that you use for whatever is the highest impact thing in your life, which is, for many users is business, but for everyone it's their idea of life's work. So like, focusing Evernote on this idea of this new definition of work, we thought was the highest impact we can have in the world, and that's been the focus of the company.
Excellent. Well, Phil, you have landed an hour ago from San Francisco, and you're leaving tomorrow morning.
I did. It's like 18 hours in Paris. So, you know what they say, I love Paris in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah, and so we have, by the way, Meet the Experts going on now, if you want to meet some. Are you doing some of that with us?
I would love to.
Great, we'll organize this. So if you want to catch Phil, you have to be fast this afternoon. Excellent. Well, Phil, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck with the new product.
Pleasure as always.